preparing a stream, and it's now live on YouTube. Look at that. I'm always impressed that I can do these things, multitask and talk at the same time. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes not so well. That's okay too. So I want to say good morning and welcome to all of you. You are here for our monthly VIP office hours to discuss LinkedIn company pages. And this is the first time I'm doing this as a solo talk focused solely on LinkedIn company pages. I have done some audio events in the past in this. For a while, I was doing a what was it called? A Clubhouse room with Michelle J. Raymond, and she and I were talking about company pages. That was audio only. Today we're going on video. And I've also had some area of specialization in company pages. I had a master class on company pages that I'll be reconfiguring into a course at some point in the near future. But I guess I'm one of those people that's always appreciated what company pages can do for us. And I also see the opportunities that are created when we don't have a company page set up, as well as, I can look at a page and like within a couple seconds, know a couple of tips to give you to enhance your company page, to get more out of what's already there. Sometimes it's literally like mining for diamonds that are already on there when you think about people that are following your company page, etc. So I wanted to make this a session where I could give you the opportunity to come into my virtual office, so to speak, and ask any questions. And we're also going to have, some time for sharing what's going on with our company pages. And one thing I'm going to do in every one of these phone calls is in the beginning, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. So if you could please go into chat right now, I'm going to put my introduction in here. I'm going to just say, I've modified mine a little bit. So I'm putting my new introduction in here. And I want to encourage you to do the same as well. And you don't need to say, hi, this is Brenda Meller, because Zoom will already say Brenda Meller to everyone. So really what I would encourage you to do is just tell us the name of your company and what do you do? And sometimes the what do you do is who do you help and what do you help them with? So I put into chat, my company is Meller Marketing, and I help business professionals, job seekers, and solopreneurs get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. Now I've put my URL in there for my personal profile. What I also want you to do is to put your page URL in there. Whoop, the YouTube just stopped. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. There, the YouTube just started playing video. I don't know if you heard that in the background, but I was hearing it on my computer. I'm like, oh, that's distracting. So what I'm going to do is share my screen again. And I see the YouTube is on screen, which is not what I wanted to show. I want to show you my LinkedIn page, and hopefully Julia can grab the YouTube playback link, drop that into chat. And we're also going to create a playlist of these eventually. Part of the reason I'm showing you this navigation right now too, is just to show you, like, here's how I get to my company page. If I'm starting off on my profile, I think the fastest way is just to scroll down to your experience section and click on your logo. Alternatively, you can type in your company name in the search box, but that takes multiple keystrokes. Or you can go under your me icon and then scroll under and manage. I have many pages that I manage, so sometimes it takes a little bit more time to get that. But I think the easiest way is just go to your profile, click on the logo from your experience section. And that also helps to remind you that's clickable once you have a page that's set up. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to share this URL, this linkedin.com/company/1621970, because that really doesn't mean anything to anyone. Right now I'm in the admin view. What I'm going to do is, in my left navigation under my company name, logo, all that stuff, there's a button that says view as member. There's a little eyeball in it, and I'm going to click on view as member. And when I do that, did you notice what just happened in the URL at the top? It changed. So now instead of a number, it's my pretty URL with my company name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy just from the HTTPS to the end of my company name. I'm not going to grab the part that says view as member equals true. Now, it won't produce an error if you do that. It looks a little bit like kind of clunky, I guess is the best way to say it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my company page URL in here, and then we're going to share a couple of additional data points. I'm going to ask you to share in how many followers you have on your company page. We might do different things in the future, but right now let's do followers. And then I also want you to share how many page invitation credits you have remaining. Now, I'm going to actually open up another page because I'm in the public version of my page right now, and I want to get to, I guess I could have done that in the previous page. I want to get to the admin view of my page, because the admin view makes it a little bit easier for us to see pending invitations, and I can show you where those are. I'm gonna move my video panel. So in the admin view, in the upper right-hand corner, it says grow your followers, and you'll see a number out of 250 credits available. I think everybody's at 250. Some pages might still be at 100, but I want you to put how many credits you have remaining. And part of the reason I do this is I just want you to focus on using those credits all the time. So I'm going to drop this into the chat right now. What I want you to drop into chat is your LinkedIn URL, the pretty URL, not the numeric version of it. I want you to put the number of followers your page has, and I want you to put down how many credits you have remaining. Okay. Now, if you put your company page URL in here, the benefit is that others that are on the call can click on those right now inside the Zoom, and we can visit your company page. And by the way, when I put this as a playback on YouTube, as well as in the podcast, on the landing page or the show notes, we're going to put the URLs that I'm visiting inside here, and we can grab those from chat. Okay. So let's not be shy. This is a good way of growing out your page followers and also getting some visibility. I'm going to give you some shout outs here in the podcast. And I see my friend Bridget. Is it Meller? Am I saying it correctly? Bridget, are you able to unmute yourself? Can you unmute and correct me if I'm pronouncing it? Is Meller?
It's Meller. Yeah.
Meller?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just talking about you the other day, Bridget, and I was telling someone, Bridget and I went to high school together. She was a senior when I was a freshman, and I knew of her because I was in cheerleading, and she was on the varsity, and I was in the freshman squad. And I'm sure we did the homecoming dance together or something. I mean, there's not a lot of interaction you have with different squads, but we did practice. And I know like the varsity cheer would teach us like the fight song and things like that. And my older sister at the time was on cheer, and she was in 10th grade and she was on varsity. So I remember like Bridget being in pictures with my older sister, Donna, and Bridget was always a nice person. And, as a freshman, you always looked after the seniors. So it was like, oh my gosh, Bridget. And she and I came into contact again recently through Inforum, which is a local networking organization. And Bridget's company page is called Unmuted Consumer Insights. So a shout out and a welcome to you, Bridget. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Brenda. And thank you for hosting us. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, well, I am excited to have all of you here today. So, all right. So we have some others that are joining us in here as well. I see Joey Himmelfarb, and his page is DPYK. Don't paint your kitchen. Did I get it right? Do I get a bell? Joey, can you unmute yourself and say hi to the group? Oh, I can't hear you, Joey. Let's try that again.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. There you go.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that is, don't paint your kitchen. That's my company page.
I love it. Can I offer a suggestion right off the bat?
Please, absolutely.
So DPYK means something to me because I've read your book and I know you. The average person on the street is not going to know what DPYK is. What I would suggest that you do is keep DPYK as your company name, but then maybe in parentheses after it or put dash, don't paint your kitchen.
Okay.
Now, when people are searching for your company page on LinkedIn, let me just try this. I'm going to go back to the homepage on LinkedIn. And let's say I were to do a post and I know that you have a company page with your book name in it. I'm just going to type I'm doing a post right now. I'm just going to say, check out. And if I do the @DPYK, your page comes up, and I know it's the right one because it's got the orange splash of paint. But let's say I don't know that that is your page name, and I type in, don't paint your kitchen. Nothing comes up in there. So there might be an opportunity to add that into the name. I'm just not sure if after you've created the name, if that's going to have an impact or not. A part of this could be just helping your audience. So if someone does tag and say, hey, I just read Joey Himmelfarb's book, Don't Paint Your Kitchen, and they tag you in on the post, then what you'll want to do is say, glad you liked the book, glad you enjoyed reading. And then I might just add it in the comments, DPYK, like tag it in to help them because they might not even be aware that they were looking for the page. But so this is kind of what we're going to do here today. I'm going to give you little tidbits of advice as I see your company pages coming up in here. And we're going to have
let me ask you a question before you go.
Sure.
And this may be for everybody's benefit. So when you wrote out Don't Paint Your Kitchen, You
Mhm.
wrote dashes between the words as
I
opposed
did.
to no spaces or
Mhm.
dots or something. I'm just curious, is it semantics? Is there a practice? Is it just the way you do things? What would you suggest we do
Yeah.
like
So
that?
it's a technique that I have learned, and if I could give credit to the person I learned it from, I would. It may have been John Asperian. I'll give him a shout out because I learned a lot of technical tricks and
Right.
techniques from him. It may have been John Asperian, but the technique here is I'm looking at the name of the company page. So I'm just going to use Bridget's company page for a second here, unmuted consumer insights. Now I'm looking also at the way that it's spelled out in the URL, and she has an abbreviation as well, unmuted CI.
Okay.
So what I have noticed, and this technique works with both profiles if you're tagging them in or company pages, is the first word, and then if there's a space between the first word and the second word, I use a dash, because then it tells LinkedIn I'm still talking about the same thing
Ah,
that I want to tag before moving on to the next. And I've even seen people doing this technique. Like, let's say, for example, I wanted to tag a person, and I know that it's I'm gonna use Bridget as an example since she's on the top of my mind right now. I know her name is Bridget Millar, but look at how many Bridgets there are. And was it Millar or Miller? And I know that she works in research. So now when I put the word research, because research appears someplace on her profile, usually in her headline, now it's going to filter the Bridget Millars down by people who include the word research as a part of it. So that technique works with company pages where there's multiple words in the page name. And it also works with profiles if you're trying to tag them in there.
right. So if
Does
you
that help
typed
you?
it just with spaces like we normally would type, it would LinkedIn would
Sometimes it
totally
works,
different.
but
Okay.
sometimes, if I type in Bridget Millar, I mean, sometimes it works, but
Right.
sometimes it'll think Bridget was like, see here, now her name's not coming up. And I'm typing in Bridget space Millar space research, and you're not seeing, well, now it just pulled up. LinkedIn made me a liar. But did you see like a minute ago, it wasn't
It
in
didn't.
there,
I saw
right?
that. Yeah.
Like after I put the H in research, it pulled it up, but before it didn't. So it helps to ensure that we're bringing up the right profiles on there. And it's just a little, I don't want to say hack because that sounds negative, but more of a technique or a strategy
Right.
to find
Okay.
the right
Thanks.
folks on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do right now is just to take a quick peek into my email just to make sure nobody's knocking on the virtual door, so to speak, saying, hey, I can't find the link and I can't get inside. I'm not seeing anybody in email, which is good. I'm also going to take a quick peek in my LinkedIn messages because that's another email inbox. I hope you all know about that. And as I'm doing that, I want to just share, Sue sent me a voice message the other day through LinkedIn, and I listened to it and I wanted to respond back to it. And then I was trying to remember, where did she send that to me? Was it my email? Was it my cell phone? Was it LinkedIn? Was it Instagram? Like there's all these different places that people can message us nowadays. So I think I started an email, couldn't find it there, went into LinkedIn and I found it from there. So, just being conscientious of the fact that people use different communication channels to communicate with us. Since we're on the subject of communication channels, I want to share one thing that you may or may not be aware of as it relates to company pages and your LinkedIn inbox. LinkedIn is now starting to set up messaging on company pages. I'm not sure if you all knew about this or not. When they rolled out the beta test, they were looking for folks to volunteer as tribute. And I was like, put my hand up like they do in the Hunger Games. I said, I'll volunteer as tribute. And they said, here's the thing though, it has to be a page that only has one admin on it, which to me is like the holy grail of things not to do on LinkedIn. You don't ever want to be the only person who's a company page admin, because what happens if you lose access to LinkedIn or get thrown into LinkedIn jail or whatever happens, and then nobody can get into the page. And eventually somebody can get in, they can request access from LinkedIn, but they have to prove that they're affiliated with the company. And there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through. So for me, it's like, well, I didn't want to give them Meller marketing. I'm not going to take off my admin, my husband, others that are on the page. So I created a page for my book, Social Media Pie, and I made that the test account. And now what happens is, and you guys can actually try this out. I'll put my link into chat in just a second here. You can go to the page on LinkedIn and you're going to see that there's a message link at the top. Now, as far as I know, They have not rolled this out to all pages yet. And I think they're trying to figure out how to handle it if there are multiple admins on the page. And if anyone on the call is the only admin and you see that this is a feature that's available, let me know. Let me know in chat, or, unmute yourself if you want. My understanding is they're starting to roll this out to pages that have one admin, and I don't know when it will be available widespread to people with multiple admins. And I think part of the issue is if somebody is replying as the page to the messages, like, we want to know who it was that replied. And right now it's being associated with one person's account. Does that make sense? So it's not like if Joey and Sue and I all worked for Social Media Pie, LinkedIn needs to route the messaging inbox for the page to one person. So I don't think they figured out how to do it from a coding perspective to route it to multiple people yet. So that's the one admin limitation. So that's one of the newer things I'm seeing. I'm honestly, I have not received any messages other than when I first got this. I did a post on LinkedIn, and I think I told people, hey, test my message, go to Social Media Pie and test it out. And then I had people like Megan Voja saying, hey, I'm testing this to see how people can receive an autographed copy of the book. And I replied back to her, and I had people like Lisa Vitale Hess and others in here as well. So they were just supporters. So nobody's messaged my page since that initial test, but it is one of the newer features out there. So this is part of what we're going to do on these phone calls. I'm going to highlight for you some of the newer features that I'm seeing on pages. I'm also going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, tell a little bit about our business. We're going to do this next. And then we'll move into some questions that you might have about company pages. And I did ask one person, I'm not sure if she's on the call here today. I don't think she is. I did ask one person if I could use her as an example of how to create a company page, because there may be one or two of you that are on the call that don't have a page yet. If she's not on today, I'll do this next month. I'll look for a volunteer next month instead. So what I'm going to do is, if you would like to introduce yourself, use your raise hand feature that is inside Zoom, just like Sue did. Sue will go first, and I'll allow you to unmute yourself, and I'll give you maybe 20 to 30 seconds to tell us a little bit about your business and what brings you to the call here today. So Sue, go right ahead.
I actually raised myself because I had a question about the messaging. Let me hold that until later for questions. I'm Sue Griffey, Sue Mentors, and the Mentor with Pom-Poms. I won't pull them up right now, but I have a global mentoring practice. So I use my company page. I started this about 3 years ago because I was working with other women who wanted to maintain initiatives separate from and whether or not they were going to be consulting or changing jobs, and found it really easy to do. What I love about the company pages is the variety of things. And so I'm going to have two questions for you. One about company pages for courses. I want to share my experience, but also back to what you were just talking about with messaging. I want to better understand what you know about that. So thanks for having me here. I also jumped on Brenda because I've made a commitment for 6 months to you and Michelle Raymond that I would update, invite, all of that. I don't do it. So my 1 hour a month is now going to be
multitasking.
Tuning it up.
There you go.
Tuning it up.
Hey,
thanks very much.
And feel free to use this time to do just that, because maybe at the end of the call, for those of you who haven't used any of your page invitation credits, you can update us and we can be a little bit of your built-in accountability partner to help you to grow those. It's a really easy way to do it. And I'll feel like sometimes 250 feels like a lot. So honestly, what I do is I don't do 250 in one fell swoop. I do like 10 or 15 at a time. And then maybe a couple more days go by, I do another 10 or 15. So if you just break it out into smaller segments, a little bit easier to manage. So thank you, Sue, so much for being on. We will move into questions after we do our introductions, but let's see if anyone else wants to introduce himself. Okay, Bridget, I see your hand is raised, so I'll give you the opportunity to go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So my name is Bridget Meller, as you know. And besides being a cheerleader, my company is Unmuted Consumer Insights. And we are a full service market research company specializing in both quantitative and qualitative consumer research. And essentially, we help companies better understand the end consumer to make better decisions and drive success. So whether companies are B2B or B2C, it's important to understand that end consumer. So you're developing products that connect with the market.
Wow, such a great company you've got. And it sounds like you came from a corporate research background and then created your own business. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yeah. So my background was automotive. I worked for a major supplier for 17 years. And then I started Unmuted. It was 10 years in January. So going on 11 years ago.
Oh, I love it. Well, I as a side note, I'd love to, if you're open to it, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'd love to interview on a LinkedIn Live sometime. I've got a podcast in a series called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And I bring in different people from different backgrounds. And sometimes it's the journey to becoming self-employed, but sometimes it's the what you do and how this can help people who are solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, speakers, or authors. So you don't have to respond right now, Bridget, but I'll email you if you're interested. We could set that up for maybe later on in the fall. But I always love hearing, that journey from taking what you had in corporate to creating your own business and carving out a niche for yourself. I think that's absolutely amazing. So delighted to be on Cheerleaders for Life, my friend, right?
Yeah, and I would be honored. So yes, send me the information. And a little quick side note, I saw in the chat, somebody mentioned how our last names are similar. When I first started my company 10 years ago, it was actually Meller Marketing. And Brenda's company is Meller Marketing. And it wasn't even through like our high school connection, just professionally, we have, I don't even know how many people we have in common, probably close to 50 people in common. And, I would see Brenda's name everywhere in this Meller Marketing, and it just drove me nuts. And so I'm like, in 2021, I rebranded to just better reflect what we do, because I'm terrible at communication, which is why I'm here. People think, I'm this marketing guru, and I'm a researcher. So there's a big difference. And so, yeah, I did start off as Meller Marketing, and it was just very confusing to people.
Oh, no, I was going to tell that story, and I'm like, I don't know if she wants me to tell it or not, but, and we talked about this at Inform the one day, how having a company name that's so similar. I mean, literally 2 letters off. Mine is Meller, Meller, and hers is Millar. Miller Marketing, and we both probably chose it for the same reasons. It was categorically broad enough to cover it, everything that we did. And for me, it was like in the beginning of my business, I created it as a side hustle. I had no intention of being here today, but here I am. I'm happy that I'm here, but I had no intention. Also when I started my business, I had heard many people saying, if you're going to focus solely on LinkedIn, don't put LinkedIn as a part of your company name, because then you could be liable for copyright or trademark infringement. And I said, well, that's a good point. And I've had some people go through that. So I'm like, I'm glad it was broad enough. I guess I don't know why I had the foresight into choosing something that was a broader term, but the challenging part can be if you have others that have similar names or very, very similar, in this case, Meller Marketing, Millar Marketing. So at any rate, delighted that you're here today, Bridget, and we'll keep this moving along and see if you have any questions a little later, if that's okay.
Yep, thanks.
All right, perfect.
Also, Brenda, let me just forget the last names. Also, your first names. I mean,
they are the BM, right?
I don't know what Bridget looks like, but if the two of you look alike, I mean, you could really play off of that. Twins separated at birth, or I don't know, right? Market. Now, I'm a firm believer of friends should not go into business with each other, because that just creates, right? If it's one thing to become business partners and then become friends, but friends working together, that's a whole nother story. But between Bridget not liking to communicate and Brenda loving to communicate, you may be able, the two of you, create something. Again, I'm not saying friends should work with each other, but somehow, some way, figure out a way to play off either your names or the way you look or your backgrounds or your history or something, right? But no,
there's an opportunity there. You're developing that spidey sense of marketing.
Right. Just throwing it out there.
So while you're on the floor, Joey, why don't you take a few minutes and not a few minutes, let's say 30 seconds and introduce yourself. Otherwise, Joey's going to be on the floor forever. If I say, take the next 15 minutes. No, he won't. Go ahead, Joey.
This will be quick. Yeah. That's the thing. So Don't Paint Your Kitchen is the name of my book. It's really the name of my company, so to speak. It's my take on helping people be disciplined about having a positive life. And when I wrote the book, it really was for job seekers, helping them understand that they got to be focused and disciplined. And when you're looking for work, you're really selling yourself. I wrote the book, got great reviews, and people have read it, said it's not just for job seekers. It really is a A Guide to Living a Positive Minded Life. So I'm writing a second book, which is a tangent to that. And, I'm trying to push this now because I'm retired. So I don't, quote unquote, and I don't want to hear this. I don't have to work, right? I don't have to grind, right? So I enjoy every day as I write my book and I sell Don't Paint Your Kitchen and the next one when it's coming down the road. But my company page is my way of getting out to the world what I'm doing.
That's great. Well, we're glad to have you on here, Joey, and it's exciting to, hear about your journey as an author too, coming out with version 2 of the book. It's very exciting to see. All right, awesome. Okay, so I think I got everyone who raised their hand or who is on camera. I want to see if anyone else who's a part of the call right now would like to introduce themselves. We have Julia, my intern, who's helping out in the background. Thank you so much, Julia. And there are a few other folks. I think I see 2 others. Debbie and O, would either of you like to introduce yourself? If you don't have to unmute yourself. You don't have to do anything. If you would like to introduce yourself, please unmute and do so now. And don't be shy. This is your time. Some good time for visibility. Going once, twice, sold. We're going to be moving on to questions now. Oh, did I hear a voice? Nope. I think was that Debbie?
Yeah. So I was going to say, I do have a couple of company pages, but today I'm here because I have some questions about a company page for a board that I'm working on that I'm trying to help them with.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself or do you want to just use this time to ask questions? What would be most helpful for you?
I just had the question.
Sure. Yeah, go right ahead, Debbie. We'll start with your questions. And I know Sue had some, and then we'll see if others in the group have any questions as well. So how can I help you, Debbie?
So this organization that I'm on the board for, we have a few company pages over time.
Okay.
2 of them are obsolete. They're duplicative, definitely duplicative. And of course, the owner admins are not around anymore. And so I'm trying to find what is the best way to get these other 2 pages deleted. Because now when people look up our organization, they find 3 and inevitably they're going to the wrong page. And so I thought you had to get rid of the followers or have less than 100 or something, but I'm trying to figure out what is the easiest way to get rid of these 2 duplicative pages.
Okay. Can I ask you a couple questions first?
Sure.
And you might not know the answers to these questions either. And I do have a blog that outlines all of this. Julia, I'm not sure if the blog is on my website or on LinkedIn, but it's like, how do you get into your company page when you don't know who the admin is? It's something to that effect. So I'm looking for it in the background. If I can find it, I'll drop it in there. But if you find it, Julia, go ahead and drop it in there for me first. So this is a question, Debbie, that I get asked from many people. You're not the first person. And usually what happens is somebody sets up a company page on LinkedIn and it's one person who's the admin. And they set it up either because they're a part of the board or we're part of the marketing team or HR or whatever at the time. And then they leave the organization and they were the only person who was really active. And they don't consciously think, I'm not going to give admin access to anyone. They just leave without giving it any thought. Because honestly, company pages can be a bit of an afterthought unless you put effort into visiting the page. So it's quite possible that the person who is an admin forgot that they were an admin. They forgot that they set up the company page. Or it could be the case that somebody else set up the page originally, removed or added the second person, as an admin, and then the first person removed themselves. So the admin, the second person, doesn't even remember being added into it. And when you add an admin into the company page, I think they get a notification. But I'll be honest with you, if you're one of those people who doesn't go on LinkedIn more than once a month, the notification is buried. So it's possible that you don't even know that you were added in as an admin. Thank you, Julia, for pulling that up. So inside this blog, I outline how do you figure this out and how do you get back into the page. And the blog is called How to Access Your LinkedIn Company Page, or How to Access Your Company LinkedIn Page When Nobody Can Get In. And I created this back in 2018, and I get this question asked at least a few times a year. Sometimes people will approach me because they find the blog and they're like, okay, I'm stuck. What do I do next? So this is what I recommend. And first of all, let's assume you don't know who the admin is. The first thing is assemble the usual players, the usual suspects, so to speak. Ask anyone who you think could be an admin to go to the company page on LinkedIn, like literally email them the link and say, visit this company page on LinkedIn. Because what will happen is if you are an admin, when you go to the company page, you will be in admin view. So they may not even know it until they visit the page, and they may be like, no, I'm not an admin. Well, just do it anyway. And if you are at the workplace, like literally go over their shoulder and look over their shoulder and see. If it's possibly a board member, do it in a board meeting. Hey, let's everyone visit this page right now, like message it out or email it out, and everybody, and then walk around the room and just look over their shoulder, and somebody will go, oh, this looks different. And they're not going to know, but they're an admin and on their page. And if they have access, congratulations. The mystery has been solved, and ask them to go under there's like this admin settings and add you in as an admin, and then you can take over. You can be the responsible adult in the room from here on out. The next thing I do is look at the first or the latest post on the page and see who interacted with it, liked, commented, anything like that. Usually what happens is admins are not shy about interacting with their page posts as a person. So let's say I created the page Meller Marketing, and then I switched to view as member, and then I liked the post as Brenda Meller. Now, LinkedIn does not discern between employees liking and engaging with a post and non-employees. Like, engagement is engagement. And so does the general public, by the way. They see people that are liking and commenting on the post. It doesn't matter if it's employees or not. They are more apt to engage on the post if they're others. So all of us who know this are going to be pretty obvious, because we are going to like and comment on the post because we know it helps to jumpstart engagement. So if you get lucky, you might see the person who did the original post liked it or added a comment, and then reach out to them. Same thing. Hey, could you visit the page and let me know if you're an admin? Then the next thing I would do is think about departments within the organization that could have access. And I list these out to help you: marketing, HR, IT. If you work in a nonprofit, it could be development or fundraising. If you work in higher ed, it could be alumni, because a lot of times they create the page to connect with alumni. Or it could be outside vendors like an agency, a media relations firm, a branding firm, an ad agency. So think about those people. And I've had situations before where the agency contact has changed. So it was like a lower level person who worked for an agency who helped to set up all of the pages. And it was for my client at the time, an interior design client. And they reached out to the agency and they said, well, it was Rachel who set it up, but she's not with the agency anymore. So they kind of just threw their hands up at that point and said, sorry. And I said, what's Rachel's last name? And I looked her up. And I think this was on Facebook, but the same technique would work on LinkedIn. I looked her up on Facebook. I sent her a private message. Hey, my name's Brenda. I'm helping out XYZ agency. Could you visit the page and see if you're an admin? If so, could you add me in? And I think I did that either in a message. It might've been an email, because I think I copied my client in so they knew I was a legitimate person. And sometimes you got to work a little, like don't take no for an answer, ask for the manager type of an approach, like go over their heads a little bit and keep going with it. Once you figure out who has access, get them to add you in as an admin and remove the people that don't need to have access anymore. If all of that does not work, there is a form that you can request admin access to the LinkedIn page. And I say try that first, because the requesting access through LinkedIn Help can sometimes be a little bit cumbersome, and they're going to require some type of a verification from you in order to get into the page. Usually that the employer is linked to your profile, your email address matches the website. They're going to make sure that you're a legitimate person who wants to get in, because they don't want to let anyone into that page that's not affiliated with the company page, because that, I don't know, that could cause some little hiccups, right? So they're going to make it a little bit harder for you to get in. And I don't know exactly what they're going to request from you, but it's not going to be like, they're not just going to say, sure, here you go. They're going to create some hurdles for you, or they're going to request some additional information from you. So there is that form that you can fill out. Actually, request admin. It says list your current position with the organization on your profile in the experience section. This step is required. They are saying, go to the page that you'd like admin access to as a second step. The third step is click on the more button and request admin access from the dropdown. The fourth step is click the checkbox to verify you're authorized to become an admin in the page. And the fifth step is to request access. And then it says you may be prompted to confirm your company email address. Now, the last time this was updated was 2 months ago, which leads me to believe this is probably still good. But in your case, if you are on the board, you may not have a company email address. So you can see here where it's going to get a little bit tricky. If that's the case, then you might need to go to to submit a help ticket to LinkedIn. And I've actually got a web page on my website. You can go to my homepage, mellermarketing.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's a section of links in the bottom. It's called the fat footer. There's one that's called LinkedIn Help. And if you click on Contact LinkedIn, it will take you to a page that will have a bunch of different things that you can do to try to get a hold of LinkedIn. What I would look for is the option that says submit a LinkedIn ticket request. And this is basically the contact us form from the website. And when you click on that, I'm trying to do this in the background right now. See, now they're trying to route me through. When you click on that, you should get the form. LinkedIn is trying to push me back through the self-serve right now. So I'm just going to ask Julia if you could drop that link into the chat for others to give that a try. Mine is creating a loop for me right now, unfortunately. But then you can request that from LinkedIn directly. All right. So was that, I'm blanking on the person's name. Was that Debbie? Was that helpful for you, Debbie?
Well, so we already know who the person is. They're not being very helpful.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I think, and I'm trying to verify that the company page has changed. So like originally, I think they were called owners versus now they're admin. And so we're having this problem of both of the pages were created a minute ago, and
Okay.
they don't want to play.
So when you say they're not being helpful, I don't know if you can
want to add another admin. They don't want to get rid of the page. I'm not sure why, because they're not affiliated with the group anymore. So I'm like, I don't understand.
So you've asked them and they've said, no, I don't want to help you.
Yeah.
And is there anyone that is in good with that person that could say, come on, George, help a brother out here?
No, we've already
Okay.
tried.
I know
that.
a guy, Debbie, who could take care of those people.
No. So honestly, Debbie, it's
That's
not
what-
worth fighting them. Go to LinkedIn, fill out the LinkedIn ticket request, fill out the form. Is there another employee who can do the previous steps that I mentioned? Like if it's in their experience section, they've got an email address that matches the company, they could just request it. Is there an employee that could do this, or is it going to be a non-employee?
It's not an organization like that. It's a professional association.
Okay,
So
but does
there's
anyone have an email address that matches the website domain?
No, none of us work.
Okay,
there.
so you're going to have to go through LinkedIn ticket requests then. And it may be a bit of a challenge here, but explaining to them that you serve on the board, the person, there is one person who has admin access. Are they active on LinkedIn or no?
No, not really.
So then I would tell
admin, they have owner, they're marked.
I
as
understand.
the
Yeah, I
owner.
understand that. But what I would tell LinkedIn is I wouldn't necessarily say we've asked them and they won't give it to us, because then LinkedIn might challenge you on that. What I would say is the person who is an admin isn't on LinkedIn and hasn't been responsive to our request. Serve on the board. Let me know what information you need from me. I don't have an email because I'm just a volunteer board member. Whoever is the current head of the organization might need to get involved in this scenario too. But I hear what you're saying, Debbie, because it does create a little bit of brand confusion when you have multiple pages that are out there. And I get what you're saying. You want to tidy things up and close out the pages that are not active. All right, Debbie, give that a try and let me know if you, do you have any other questions before we move on to the next topic here?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for asking. I know there's going to be others that are wondering the same thing, and you're not the first and you won't be the last. That's for sure certain. Joey, you're
And
unmuted.
I know a guy if that doesn't work.
No. Joey's the guy in our job seeker group that will come out and talk shop to people who are starting to get negative on themselves. I don't want this to be like a threatening scenario, though. I want this to be a positive. All right. We're going to move on to Sue next, because Sue had said that she had some questions. So Sue, how can we help you?
I'm going back first to the messaging, the new feature for messaging. So I looked inside in my member view, the message button's there. But when I look in my page admin view, I can't originate a message. So how do I get these messages? Does it go in messages only?
Okay.
So the message that they do from the page comes to my messaging app and I do it from there. Is that
are you comfortable sharing your screen right now, Sue? I've
Sure.
just made you a co-host, because I think sometimes when I answer these questions, I can tell you, but I think if I can tell you in you can look at it and we can all be looking at the same thing. It might even be more helpful. Okay, so you are right now, you're in your admin view of your page, and you're saying you do have the messaging button inside here. Is that right?
Not here. No, I only see it when I go to view as member. So now when
Correct.
I view as member, they can message me.
Okay, so what's your question?
So my question is, that message comes then, see me circling up here to the messaging thing. Their messages will go there, and that's how I'll be notified.
Yes. Could you do us a favor? Could you grab the pretty URL for your page and drop it into chat? And I'm going to ask everyone on the call to go to that page and click on message and just send a test message to Sue. Okay. So she's going to grab the URL, which is linkedin.com/company/Sue Mentors, all one word. She's dropping it into chat right now. And I'm going to ask those of you who are on the call, or maybe even those that are listening to the playback of this call later, maybe on the podcast, go to the Sue Mentors page. First of all, make sure that you're following the page. Just do Sue a favor and help her to grow her followers. And then you're going to see there's a blue message button on that page. So when you click on that blue message button, what I see is select a topic and it says service request, request a demo, support, careers, or other. I'm just going to choose other. I'm just going to say, good morning, Sue. And you can see when you start typing in, it's saying, please enter 25 to 750 characters. And I'm just going to say, I am testing out the message. And as soon as I get to 25 characters, then I'm allowed to send a message. So I can't just say hi or hello or good morning. I've got to like type in something a little bit more lengthy in there. And Sue, I've just done that. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is click on your messaging tab in the top menu bar of your LinkedIn. So Sue is now navigating to her messaging. In the left navigation, in the top, it says messaging, and then it says page inboxes. Click on that. Now click on Sue Mentors. So look at that.
Oh, great. Yep.
And this part of the issue I have with company pages on LinkedIn in this messaging feature is, did you notice you didn't get a messaging?
Exactly. I didn't get a flag
notification
for it. Yeah.
And it's a bit problematic because it's similar to your company page. Unless you go there, you're not seeing the notifications for comments, likes, etc. The messaging, you've got to toggle into the box to see if there's anything waiting there for you. So I feel like there's some kinks that need to be worked out in this until this can become a good feature. But now that it's here, Sue, now that it's enabled, check on these periodically. Now, did you notice there was a second messaging inbox that you had access to as well?
Yeah. So I have, I have another company page. Let me just skip ahead to that.
Mm-hmm.
This is my course page, and I'm bringing this up as an information, and then I have one more question.
Sure.
When I started my course a year and a half ago, a lot of people I work with globally like certificates. And in the old days, they came with their resume with thousands of pieces of paper. And we discovered that they couldn't put it into licensure and certifications that LinkedIn allows. But by making it a course page, a company page, I actually, let's see if I still have it open. I actually, yes, can you see now? I've put it on my certification.
Yeah, the credential.
The credential shows up there. I don't have a credential. There's, when you go through it, I just say, whatever it says it can't find X credential, I just say fine. But it allows my course participants, if they want, to show it there, because in essence, these certifications are not really certifications. They're certificates for most people, unless they've done Microsoft or PMP.
I used to belong to Toastmasters, and I'm going to use Toastmasters as an example here too. When you complete, or at least back in the day when I completed, you got your competent communicator, and like there was discussion: is it a certification? Yeah. Is it a certificate? Is it an achievement? And we started thinking, we were having discussions about, well, what do you need to do to get the competent communicator? You need to do 10 speeches and you need to be evaluated. It doesn't mean that they're good. It doesn't mean that you achieved it. I mean, it's just like checking the box that you did them. Yeah. But we had this conversation like, well, in the process of delivering 10 speeches, you'll be getting better. So one person's CC designation, and that was another word, designation, was different than another person because of the level of speaking the ability they were at when they came into the program and the amount of work they put into it. But keeping in mind that LinkedIn is a marketing tool. So I'm going to say that again, LinkedIn is a marketing tool. There are different places on your profile that you can use to highlight things in different ways. This is not legally binding. Okay. So if you fill out a job application, for example, and they say, where did you work and what were your dates of employment? Hopefully the salary's coming out now because a lot of people are being, states are making that illegal to ask that question, but start date, end date, job title, the name of the company. You have to put everything in there, even if there's a company that you only work for 3 months. Do you have to put that 3-month stint on LinkedIn? No, you don't have to, because this is a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Similarly, if they were to ask, do you hold any professional licenses or certifications? I might ask the question, what do you deem to be a license or certification? For example, I completed a course by Sue Griffey called Build and Update Your Professional Presence in 4 Steps. I consider that credential pretty important to my job as a director of marketing. I have it on my LinkedIn profile. Would you consider that a license or certification? And then the employer might say, no, we're only looking for things that are issued by a third-party organization like the Michigan Association of CPAs or the Project Management Institute. They might give like, here's what we're looking for as your guidelines. So does that help you, Sue?
Yeah, I love that differentiation. And I tell people that. I mean, they come back to me and say, someone needed a reference for a volunteer job. And just like that, I always say I will give people who finish the course help in that, because it's the same thing as that certificate versus certification. I can talk to their credentials as a showing up, doing the work, doing the assignments, finishing the whole course. To me, those are work characteristics. So thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Back to company page. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say any other questions.
Yeah. One more question. So back to company page. I think it was Michelle Raymond yesterday posted that now they're organizing events differently. Yeah. And yet, let me go back to my other company page. But I don't have the feature yet. I just need to know what that means, because it's been very frustrating to try to point people in the global world to my past events where my lives with Rawan are. So here's what events looks like. And as far as I can tell, it's still the same thing. No upcoming. And then you got to know to click on past. And they archive 6 months or earlier, which is also frustrating.
Okay. So the older than 6 months are now going away. So what did Michelle share? Because sometimes she gets access to things before I do.
Yeah. Well, she just said, they're making events more full featured and you get to show something. And I was busy yesterday getting ready for other things. And I forgot to save the post for myself. So I don't even remember it, but I just wondered if you had seen it. It's not urgent. It was just a comment.
Yeah, not offhand. And now that you mentioned that, I'm looking at my page and I'm in admin view. Nothing looks different there. I'm in member view and I'm just seeing, does anything look different in here? It's now showing, well, let me show, I'm going to stop your screen share if you don't mind. I'm going to share my screen. So this does look a little bit different. And maybe when I share this on screen, you'll say, yep, that's what she was talking about. So for those of you that are listening on the podcast, you're going to have to go to my company page and see what I'm talking about here. But I'm in my company page for Meller Marketing on LinkedIn as a member. And the top kind of looks all the same. The top header information, the banner, all that other good stuff. There's the about section. There's my form, want 15 free LinkedIn profile tips for coaches. And then now I see this upcoming event. So this is something that's fairly new. And a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, I see things on pages or profiles and I'm like, I kind of don't think about it at the time. The first time I see it, I'm like, that's interesting. And it's almost like when you go to the grocery store and they reconfigure the entire grocery store and they still sell milk. I say milk. My daughter makes fun of me. It's milk. I'm like, whatever. I call it milk. They still sell milk, but it's not in aisle 14. It's now in aisle 7. So it's still in the same place. They just reconfigured it, or maybe they put it in a new display area or something. So it looks a little different, but there's still some familiarity that comes along with that. So this is kind of what I'm feeling with upcoming events right now. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a little different, but it's also something similar to what they had before. So right now I see that they've created almost like a carousel of events, and I can click through and see other events that are coming up. Does this look like what Michelle was talking about, Sue?
Yeah. And actually, I just wrote in the chat, I see that you do it as view as member. I was expecting it to be the view in my admin view, which is,
Yeah.
is
Wouldn't
really
that
kind
be
of
helpful?
it's off-putting. Like I have to look and remember to go here, and then oh yeah, past events and all of that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
No,
I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and honestly, what you are experiencing is common. And a lot of times when I'm training people on LinkedIn and working on their profiles and pages, we're doing this exercise of, okay, we're on your company page and we toggle back and forth multiple times. And I always have them do the exact same thing I had